Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Anthea. I feel like I haven't ever said my name out loud in this channel, so my name is Anthea, in case you were wondering, and this week I'm going to be reading thriller books. Now, I will say, I don't really know the difference between a thriller and a mystery book. I mean, I know the difference, but I feel like every single mystery book is also a thriller, and every thriller is also a mystery book. Anyways, the weather is perfect for that. Today is Wednesday, and I don't actually have any classes left for the week, so I thought this is the perfect time to read some thrillers because the weather is so cloudy and rainy and perfect for thrillers. I actually have 3 different thriller books on my physical TBR. I do plan on reading some on my Kindle. I have The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden that I really want to read, but the 3 physical books that I have, I'm hoping that I'm gonna read at least 2 of them, are these 3. The first one is The Girls Have Been by Dash Sarp. I feel like I saw Rachel Catherine talking about this and she actually really liked it. I did own it before that, but I had never heard anybody talking about it, so after she talked about it, I'm pretty sure at least that she talked about it, I have been kind of interested on reading it. I think that this is about an ex-con artist and something happens and then she has to go back to that, so I'm hoping that this is going to be kind of interesting and thrilling. The next book that I have is 7 Minutes Later by Bonnie Kistler. This, I don't know why I bought it. I have never seen a single soul talking about it. This is about 2 women. They walk into an elevator. One of them ends up dead in there, so I guess we are figuring out what happened. I have had this for a while. I haven't heard a single person talking about it. I don't even know. You know what? Let's check the average rating on Goodreads for it because I genuinely don't know. Okay, the average rating is 3.57, which I feel like it's not that bad. It has only 792 ratings and 84 reviews. So yeah, very just not well-known book. So that's the second book that I have the physical copy of, and the third book is Not a Happy Family by Sharila Pena. This, I'm pretty sure that it's mostly a murder mystery, but I'm not sure. It is a bit more on the chunky side, but if I remember, yes, the font is really big, so that's fine. The fact that it's like a couple more pages, like it's closer to 400. So I don't really know if I'm gonna reach for this because I think that it's more so murder mystery. It's rich people drama. So these are the 3 books that I have on my TBR for this video, and then also The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. I have been so interested in this book. It's the first book by Frida McFadden that I have been curious about. I haven't read anything else from her and I have heard great things, but this is the first book that I'm like, oh, I want to read that. It's about this girl and she has been struggling with dating, and then she finds this perfect guy and he's the perfect boyfriend, right? And then she starts reading some articles, I think, about a serial killer that dates women before he kills them, and then she's like, oh wait, what if it's my boyfriend that is the serial killer? My cat wanting to say hi. And she's gonna leave. Yeah. So those are my plans. I don't really have anything else on my radar. I might find another thriller on my Kindle or something. My goal is to read at least 2 of these books and 1 on my Kindle. I might read more than 3 books in this video. I don't know if that's just me being delusional because I do overestimate how many books I can read. But I feel like I could. I have never been so confused in my life, but in a good way. I am 118 pages in. I don't know what is going on. I mean, I know what's going on, but at the same time, I am missing so many things. And yeah, this is good. This is good. This is about Nora, and her mom used to be a con artist and she was also a con artist, and now she has grown out of that part of her life. One day she's at this bank with her girlfriend and her ex-best friend, no, and her ex-boyfriend, they end up in the middle of a robbery, being hostages. She's trying to figure out how to get them out of that. It's genuinely crazy. I didn't know what to expect that. It's past and present timeline, I guess. We get some glimpses of how she used to be in her con artist days as a small child. Obviously, the present is the robbery. There are so many things happening that are wrong. I don't know how I feel, to be honest. I'm just impressed. I am impressed with Nora. She went through so many things, and seeing how her life used to be and how she grew up, it makes me want to cry at certain points, and seeing how she has prevailed trying to live her life. And I don't know, it doesn't sound like it, but I will say that this is a thriller. It has a very thrilling aspect to it, especially as it goes. At first I wasn't sure, but as it keeps going, I think that it's definitely a bit thrilling. You can tell because I have been reading this for the past 3 hours, I think, at least 2.5 hours, and I haven't been able to put it down. So I think that that's like a huge sign that it is very addicting. And honestly, I forgot how addicting thrillers can be, which I think it's the whole point of them. But yeah, I haven't read one in a hot minute, so I forgot how addicting they can be. I finished this. It's the next day, by the way. I know that it looks literally the same, but it is in fact the next day. I finished The Girls I've Been by Tess Sharp, and I think I'm gonna give it 3 point... I'm not actually sure. I'm between 3.25 or 3.5, or maybe even 3. I'm actually not sure, but I'm leaning towards that. Towards the end of it, we could have just removed some things, and I definitely I don't know how I feel about the past and present timeline. I feel like it kind of brings me out of the story, especially when we're going into a heist, right? We're in the middle of a robbery, and while we're in the middle of a robbery, going to the past timeline, even though it is important and what is happening is interesting and thrilling, I guess, it removes me a bit from the whole robbery part of the story, like the present. And I don't know how I feel about that, but at the same time, I don't see how we could have gotten that information without it being past and present timeline. But yeah, that did not work amazingly for me, but I did really enjoy it, and I definitely want to read the second book, but not right now because this was heavy. This was really heavy, and I'm used to my romances, right? And yeah, romances might have like some heavier things, but there's always love and romance. And here our main female character, we see her with her girlfriend, so I guess there's romance, but that's not the focus of the story. It's just there, and seeing how bad some people are was definitely hard for me. And yeah, I don't think that I could go into the second book right now, but yeah, I did enjoy it. I think that it was good. It was definitely thrilling. It's not the most thrilling book that I have ever read, obviously. That's the reason why I'm giving it like around 3 stars. But I did like it. I did enjoy it. I'm honestly kind of curious to see if I didn't love it as much because it's young adult. I'm not a lover of young adult. I used to love young adult, obviously, when I was younger, but now I prefer to read adult romances, adult books in general, because I find them more realistic. For example, with this one, I was a lot of times thinking that relax. Let's just ask a grown-up what we're supposed to do. For example, there's something that she hides from her sister. Let's just talk to her about it and figure it out, because you're making rash decisions, and I feel like in an adult novel I wouldn't feel like that. I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's how I feel. But yeah, some things in this book were kind of crazy, but I did really enjoy the writing, and I do want to read the second book. I don't know if I'm going to read anything else from this author. I don't see myself, except if she comes out with another book that I'm really interested in. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna read the second book, but I don't know if I'm gonna read anything else from this author. I was actually planning on reading 7 Minutes Later after this, but I think I'm in the mood for an audiobook. I am so used to reading on my Kindle or listening to an audiobook that a lot of times when I wouldn't understand something here, I wouldn't understand like a word, I would almost go and tap the page page in order to see the definition of it, which is crazy. And at the same time, it felt so weird to not be able to see at any second what percentage of the book I have read. It felt so crazy, or to not know how many like minutes I have left in the book or in the chapter. It felt so crazy because I'm so used to it. So yeah, I think I'm gonna switch to an audiobook to just take a break from the physical books, and then I'm gonna probably get back to 7 minutes later. I don't think that I'm gonna read Not a Happy Family, but yeah, I'm hoping that the next book, which is going to be The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden, is not that heavy and doesn't make me question humanity. Because this was a lot. This was a lot. I was going to update you and tell you that I'm actually enjoying it, but something happened. I'm listening to the audiobook of it. Literally in the last 5 seconds, 10 seconds, something happened and I'm like, no. Okay, this is basically about Sydney, and she has been dating for a while and she has seen so many different like weird things in the dating space, I guess. So people that lie on their profiles, people that are just weird, you know. And one day she finds this guy, she meets this guy, and he's perfect. She's very happy about it, but then she sees that there are murders going on and she starts to suspect that he might be the serial killer that is going around the whole town and dating his victims before he kills them. That sounds interesting, but throughout the whole book I am like probably 60 something percent through the book. I am for 68% through the book on chapter 44. She has said so many times, oh, this is a red flag, this is a red flag, but I'm just going to ignore it. This is a red flag, but I'm just going to ignore it. I don't get it. She already knows that there's a serial killer out there. I mean, her boyfriend fits the freaking picture. I mean, if the shoe fits, I feel like I know what's going to happen, what's going to be revealed, but at the same time I'm like, how do we have 30% of the book left? And also, it seems pretty obvious. A bunch of things that have been happening seem really, really obvious, and I guess them before they happen. At this point, it's starting to feel a bit ridiculous, I guess. I don't know, it's just the fact that she's ignoring every single red flag that is out there. That's when I say red flags, I mean bright red. Like, they're screaming in her face. She's ignoring all of those. For example, right now, she literally said that there's something wrong with that, but I'm gonna figure it out eventually. Bestie, there's a serial killer out there. What do you mean? I don't get it. I genuinely don't get it. I'm honestly speechless. I'm shocked that she's like so gullible and so naive, and it's just, I, as a person in the real world, if I saw a person having so many red flags, I would be like, no. If I saw a person having half of the red flags that he has, I would be like, no. Is he hot? Yes. Okay, that's fine. Is he very funny, smart, charismatic, whatever? Yeah, okay. So what? Can we focus a minute on the fact that there are red flags? I don't know what she's thinking. I don't think that she's thinking. I'm getting frustrated. I'm literally listening to 2.5, 3 times speed in order to finish it. I don't really care about the characters, but at the same time I'm like, what's going to happen? And also, I don't think that this is a thriller. Is this a thriller? It says that it's like a psychological thriller about what you do when you... A dark story about obsession and the things we'll do for love. Where? I don't see anything that has to do with love. I mean, I will say the beginning of the book started feeling a tiny bit like a romance book, I guess. I mean, at least compared to the other thrillers that I have read. But yeah, I don't see how this is. I don't get it. I really don't. I finished The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden last night, actually. I don't know how I feel about it. I did not like it necessarily. First things first, I feel like I was more interested in the romance aspect of the book, not so much in the mystery thriller aspect of the book, which I feel like that's not what I should be focusing on. How it was written, I think that it just focused way too much on that part. Secondly, like I already said, our female main character, she was naive. She was, I don't want to say dumb, but at some points she was dumb. And yeah, I was shocked by the plot twist that happens at the end. I really thought that I had it. I was like, it's so obvious. It was not, but at the same time the plot twist was kind of crazy. I don't know, it didn't feel realistic. maybe I'm just thinking way too much about it, but I didn't love it. I didn't hate it at the same time. I'm thinking that I'm gonna give it a 3 stars. It's good. I liked it. It's not anything crazy. I wasn't that interested in the characters, although I did really like listening to a thriller as an audiobook. So I think that now I'm going to listen to an audiobook again. I didn't find 7 Minutes Later as an audiobook, but I found some other ones. I was actually looking through Goodreads and I saw the Goodreads 2024 Choice Awards. I saw that and I was like, oh, let me see the thriller category, right? I will say they have thrillers and mysteries at the same category, so I don't know about that, but it had a bunch of different ones that I'm kind of curious about. So I went and saw what audiobooks are available in the app that I'm using. I use Everent and I found a couple of different audiobooks, but after reading the synopsis of them, the ones that I think are the most interesting is The Return of Ellie Black by Amiko Jean and then The Heiress by Rachel Hawkins. I don't know which one of the two I'm gonna read. I really don't know. Both of them sound really interesting. The Return of Ellie Black is basically about this, I'm pretty sure that it's this detective. It's about this detective and her sister went missing a bunch of years ago and a girl ends up appearing out of nowhere and she's like, oh, maybe that's how I'm going to figure out where my sister is. At least that's what I remember of it. And then The Heiress is basically about this woman. She passes away and so leaves all of her money to her son, but he's like, no, I don't want anything to do with it. So he leaves. He doesn't use any of the money, any of the inheritance. A bunch of years later, when he's married, he comes back to his mother's house and he just starts learning secrets and stuff like that. I might be fully wrong with how I am talking about them. I might be saying something wrong. Take everything with a grain of salt, but I'm between these two and I honestly don't know which one of the two I'm gonna choose. So I was thinking maybe to keep things interesting, we could kind of like randomly choose one. So maybe flip a coin because it's 2 books. So I feel like randomly generating a number doesn't make any sense, and at the same time putting them in a spinning wheel also doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna say flip coin. Okay, let's go with The Return of Ellie Black is heads because there's a woman and a head in the cover of the book. The Heiress is tails because that's what's left. So The Return of Ellie Black is heads and The Heiress is tails. Let's see. Heads. Okay. So The Return of Ellie Black is the winner. I don't know how I feel about it. I was genuinely in between the two and I didn't really have a preference, but yeah. So I guess we're reading The Return of Ellie Black. I am 40% through the book. I think like 38% through the book or something. At first I was like, is this actually a thriller or is this just fiction? Because it feels like we're following a bunch of different characters and we see their perspective of things they're struggling with, things that they are thinking, how they see a certain thing that happened. But I feel like it's kind of literary fiction with a side of a mystery and maybe thriller. But yeah, I would say the main genre of the book, I guess, it's general fiction. That's not like a bad thing. I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, the synopsis that I gave you, I feel like it's kind of correct, kind of not. We have a female main character. Do not remember her name. What's her name? Literally do not remember. But we have a female main character. She is a detective and her sister, I want to say 10 years ago, she disappeared. Obviously that created a lot of problems with her family, with her parents. It makes sense. And then she became a detective. At the timeline that we are right now, 2 years ago, a girl went missing. She disappeared one night and she was the detective in the case. They never found her. They never understood what actually happened. Now on present day, they found this girl in the middle of a forest, and that's actually how the book starts, with a girl's perspective. We see this girl, she's so traumatized, and honestly I would say that this book is not necessarily for the weak. It has some things that are sad that are actually kind of hard, and while I was reading it my heart was kind of I don't know how to explain it, but you know when you're reading something and it's so hard because it can be so realistic. This whole book talks about different struggles that women go through and how hard it is sometimes to be a woman, the danger that you're in just because you were born a female. It's so scary because reading it, yes, it's fiction, but the thing is, I know in the back of my mind that this could happen. This probably has happened somewhere. And it's so surreal and crazy and scary because as a female, this could happen to me. And I feel like that's what the book is going to focus on, just the struggles of being a woman, the danger of being a woman. And then we have our female main character is a woman of color. She's also a woman in a mostly, I would say, male field, I guess, at least in her town. She's, I think, the only woman that works in a police station in her town. So we see also struggles with that, and I think that's going to be a very important, very serious book, a very hard book, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And I don't know if I necessarily want that. Basically, I read books because I want to forget about real life. I want to forget about real world problems, and reading about a book that makes me so uneasy, I know that that's probably the point, but I don't know if that's necessarily what I want. So yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm not like a thriller girly. I think that I'm more so a murder mystery kind of girly, where we see what's happening and we try to figure out what is going on and like kind of who did it. It's so heavy, and while I'm reading it, while I'm listening to it, I usually, when I'm listening to a book, I can do other things while I'm listening to the book. It's fine. With this book, while I was literally doing other things, I would have to stop and listen for a minute and just stare at nothing and just sit there listening and feeling like my heart is squeezed. I'm gonna stop talking because I could talk for a long time, especially about this book. I feel like there's so many things that I could say. But yeah, I'm gonna continue listening to the audiobook. I think I have 3.5 hours left, maybe 4. I'm not sure. I'm gonna definitely finish it today. I'm probably gonna binge it, to be honest. I finished the book last night. I don't know how to explain that. It was definitely not what I was expecting. I'm actually very confused about my feelings towards that book. I would recommend it. Definitely check trigger warnings before reading it and make sure that you can emotionally read it, because it was a very heavy book, a very hard book to read. I literally finished the book and then just stared at nothing for so long because I could not wrap my head around the whole book. The feelings that it made me feel were not very positive. First things first, the writing was really good. It was incredible. It was third person, which is something that I genuinely did not realize until halfway through the book because it was done so well. I didn't have an issue with the third person point of view. I actually really liked it because it made sense. It was done so well and it also made sense. We have so many different point of views, and the third person really felt like we were watching everybody and made a lot of sense. And I think that if it was first person, it wouldn't have worked that well. The different twist that this book had definitely got me. I was not expecting. The ending shocked me. It was nowhere near close to what I was expecting, but at the same time it was very hard to read because, as scary as it is, this book felt realistic and like something that could actually happen in the world that we live in. And that's so scary, and it affected me so much because it was so realistic, because the characters felt so real, like actual people, because the motives were so just, I want to say realistic, but they felt like actual people. And I think that was the scariest part. They truly felt like actual people. It felt like we were watching a movie or like a documentary or something, and that combined with the whole plot, the whole twist, the motives, everything about this book, it was just scary. It felt like one of the cases that you read that have actually happened in real life, and you read about them or you watch documentaries about them and you get that sick feeling in your stomach because you're like, how can a person do this? How can this actually happen? How? The whole book was mind-blowing. I was actually not sure about my rating. I was thinking above 4 stars, but I didn't know exactly the rating. I think I'm gonna give it 4.5 stars. I really liked it. I don't think that it's going to be a 5-star read for me. And to be honest, I don't think that I'm gonna find a thriller that is going to be 5 stars, because I like happy endings. I like the whole they lived happily ever after. And I don't think that you can get that through a thriller, because yeah, maybe the ending was not the worst case scenario, but at the same time, it's not, oh, and they live happily ever after, because they went through some very traumatic things. So yeah, I would say that it's a good thriller. I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna give it 4.5 stars. So yeah, that's going to be the last book of this video. I ended up reading 3 books. Obviously, I already talked about The Return of Ellie Black. I also read The Girls I've Been by Tess Sharp. I actually really liked it. I don't know what my original rating was, but I'm going to give it 4 stars. I have been thinking about it. I really want to pick the next book up. I think that it was very entertaining, very interesting, very fast-paced, and I would recommend it, especially if you're not looking for something very scary, I guess. I would highly recommend this book because it doesn't have anything crazy scary in it. I then read The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. That book was actually kind of a very light thriller, I would say. So I would also recommend it if you're not looking for something very heavy. I didn't really love that book. I don't know, it's just the whole plot of it seemed very crazy to me and it didn't really give me that much of a thrilling vibe from it. So I think I'm gonna give it 3 stars because it was a very easy thriller to actually read. It was the kind of thriller that you close the book and then you don't think about it again. And to be honest, I don't think that I will ever think about that book again. The other 2 books, I'm definitely going to think about them again. So yeah, I read 3 books and 2 of them were actually really good ones. And the third one was also pretty good. Not my favorite, but still good. I'm happy that I am branching out and trying different genres. I really want to get into more genres. I know that deep down I'm always going to love a romance book, but that doesn't mean that I cannot love a thriller occasionally, or maybe a fantasy eventually when I stop being scared of it. So yeah, that brings us to the end of this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Maybe you got some good recommendations. Other than The Boyfriend, I haven't seen anyone talking about these books, although at the same time I don't really follow that many people that read thrillers, so I don't really know. Maybe they're very popular and I just don't know it. But yeah, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna read a fluffy romance because I need it. I hope that you liked this video and I hope that I will see you in my next one. Bye!
You give me butterflies when you smile and it feels so